Jonathan Davie. I'm actually a bit of a mixture. I was born in Canada, lived 3 months there, spent most of my life in New Zealand, so I'm a Kiwi, and I live in Australia now, so I'm a bit of a mixture of nationalities. I qualified for this show by coming third in the Australian Grand Prix, and last night was probably the highlight of my life, next to probably my marriage and my birth of my first child, so it was an awesome experience. The Australian Grand Prix was in March at a guy called Tony Doherty runs it. He's probably one of the most popular promoters in Australia, or in the world actually, so it was a fantastic show to compete at. I'm 33. I've been training for about 13 years now. I'm probably a little different to most of these guys because I hold down a 9-to-5 job. I work for a supplement company called Musashi, which I've been with for 11 years now. Musashi's the largest supplement company in Australia. I've been competitive on and off. I've only competed in 2 shows in 7 years. In fact, this is my 3rd show in 7 years. So I was actually going to retire after I competed in the Australian Grand Prix because I didn't think I'd qualify for the Olympia. But I qualified, so I got the chance to do the biggest show of any bodybuilder's career, which was a dream come true for me. Yeah, well, it's man, I've got a wife, Jolie, and I just had a daughter called Isabella, and it was kind of at a stage in my life where I was never going to retire from bodybuilding. I just was going to retire from competitive bodybuilding because I just love getting into the gym and training and challenging myself. And every few years doing a show, but it's very hard with certain sponsors because sponsors want you to compete, every show 2 or 3 times a year, and in that respect, Musashi's been fantastic because they've never pushed me to do shows. Now, with the Olympia and coming third at the Grand Prix, I'm definitely going to put a bit more effort into my training. When I say that, holding down a 9-to-5 is pretty difficult, and then getting to the gym at night and trying to spend time with your family. So I'm going to put a bit more time into my dedication for maybe doing the Australian Grand Prix in 2005 and seeing if I can re-qualify, because last night the feeling that you get when you walk out on that stage is pretty awesome. I think last night, I stopped weighing myself 4 weeks out, and I was 124 kilos. And I think last night after carving up, I would have been about 260, 262, 265. At 6 foot tall, and you're getting guys up there that are 5'8" and heavier than that. So to be realistic, I really would like to compete maybe next time 275, 280, and be a bit tighter. And my stage presence is hard because I only competed in a few shows. I find it difficult to. These guys compete 5 shows in a row or 5 shows in a year, and they get so used to being on stage, it's second nature to them. And for me, it's I'm a kind of shy person, and getting up in front of those people, you got to show a different personality, and I just haven't quite grasped that yet. But I'll do my best next time. Well, getting a medal from Arnold, it's the highlight. It's got to be the highlight of any one of those guys on stage. He is probably an icon in the sport of bodybuilding, and probably one of the most, or he is the most successful bodybuilder of all time. And it's fantastic to see him, go on from bodybuilding, being the best bodybuilder, to being the biggest action hero, most renowned action hero in the world, and now, Governor of California. So, all credit to him, and it was an awesome feeling getting to shake his hand. And he actually said to me, which was surprising, he said, "You're the first Australian I've seen up here in a long time." And it just goes to show that he still does have some kind of interest in bodybuilding. And it's awesome to get that from him. We don't often get the chance to live the professional lifestyle, so to speak, because there's no money involved in bodybuilding. In Australia, it's just basically you funding yourself and maybe getting a bit of free supplements from companies. So I talked to, I get on quite good with a couple of the other guys there, and it was an awesome experience just to meet, guys like Ronnie. I was actually lucky enough to to be in the changing room where Ronnie stripped down and there's Claude, Groulx and me, and to see Ronnie in the condition he's in, and man, that guy's an alien, you know. He's not from this planet, and he's taken the sport, you know, far further than anyone I've ever seen before. And I really don't think at this stage there's anyone on that stage that can beat him. You know, he's just gone to another level. And taking nothing away from guys like Cutler, because I think Jay is awesome. But Ronnie this year, and he just looked incredible. Yeah, I think that the biggest thing with bodybuilding in Australia is up until Tony Doherty started the Australian Grand Prix, really, because there's no professional money in bodybuilding in Australia, it's so expensive for Australian bodybuilders to travel to the States, to compete in enough shows to actually get recognised by the judges, to get a call out to start with, and then the possibility of qualifying for an Olympia show. So I think now, with the show being in Australia in our backyard, there's a bit more money being thrown towards athletes, and I think it just gives us the opportunity not to have to spend a huge amount of money, outlay a lot of money to come to the States to compete. You know, it's a lot cheaper to compete in Australia. Obviously, you know, I brought my family over, and there's always added expenses. And now, yeah, I mean, a year ago I was basically saying, well, I'm not going to compete for a while, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, and now I'm thinking I'd like to have a year and a half off. I really think for me to be competitive or to make the top 10, I need to be 280, 285 on stage. Well, you know, I honestly believe that on that stage yesterday there was three groups of people. There was a shaved down silverback who won it, because Ronnie was just out of this world. There's a whole lot of, you know, monkeys following him, so to speak. And then there was me and a few other guys that were down the end. And when I say monkeys, you know, those guys are awesome, but I think there's a gap between Ronnie and the rest of them. And this year, I mean, Jay Cutler 2 years ago, man, he should have won it. This year, Ronnie's just stepped up. And getting on that stage, and I don't even know where I've come yet. I think I probably came, you know, right at the end. But just the feeling when you're up there with those guys, getting compared to them, talking to them backstage, and associating them with them is an experience I'll never forget. That ice cream's starting to kick in from last night. Now they've given $2,000 for everyone who places after 12. Well, I actually came to Venice on Monday week, so I've been here for 14 days, basically 2 weeks. 13 days, basically 2 weeks. And it's, you know, there's an expensive, it's $150 a night for me in Venice, you know, which adds up. And then you got all your food expenses on top of that. I brought my wife over a week later, and you know, the trip's probably cost me $10,000 or $11,000 so far. And you know, I'm going to have a bit of a holiday at Mandalay Bay and enjoy the pool and have a few drinks with a few friends from Australia and New Zealand that came over to support me. So we haven't done spending yet. So you know, it is an expensive thing to do, and I think the difference between me and a lot of guys is that, you know, I've got a wife, a daughter, which are my life, and bodybuilding is a hobby that I try and fit in because it's a passion of mine. I love it. The competing side of it takes me away from my family, so you know, we decide on when we're going to do a show, and it's every couple of years. And in between that, I just train. I train as hard as any of these guys. In fact, you know, I think I train harder than a lot of them. I diet a lot harder than and with my outside work, with Musashi, you know, I work with the top athletes in Australia, all the Olympic athletes, all the rugby and league players, and it's motivating me to do that. So I think that balance makes me a better bodybuilder. Yeah, well, I tell you, I would like to thank a couple of people if I could. First of all, Musashi, who've been with me for such a long time. They've been basically paying me a wage even though I haven't been working for 6 weeks full on. And they gave me an incentive to come here. They've helped with my expenses. Wayne D'Amelia and Kerry Kays this year put up $1,000 for every athlete that didn't place in the top 12, which is fantastic because it does help your expenses. I definitely want to thank Ronnie Partley, who came down from Canada to help me for the last week, and without him it would have been incredibly difficult. And all the boys back home, my training partners. I've got a friend back there who we work for opposition companies. His name's Nick Jones. He gave me a lot of help, a lot of inspiration, and you know, without those guys, without that support group, and I think all these guys have it, it just makes the sport so much harder. So I'd like to thank all of those people. Okay, thank you very much. Whew.